guys, so today I'm bringing you a review of Howard's End by E.m Forster. I was influenced to read this by Katie over at Effusions of Wit. She did a review of this and I immediately decided I needed to read it as well. So I will post a link to her review down below. Yeah, and Katie and I have been talking about this for the past week or so as I've been reading it, really just gushing about it. And I promised her I would have a review up this week, so this is why you get 3 videos in a week. You can entirely blame Katie for seeing so much of my face. So first things first, I love this book. I thought it was wonderful. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Yeah, so this is going to be a rave review. So, quick plot summary, it revolves around the lives of the Schlegel sisters, Helen and Margaret, and their brother Tibby? One of those. Not very important. He's not in the book very much. And basically it revolves around their interactions with the family of the Wilcoxes, who are very rich, and the Bass, who are very poor. And the Schlegels are kind of in between. They're very comfortable. At one point, Margaret points out that they stand on an island of wealth, and that gives them a lot of privilege. And it allows them to be happier instead of trying to keep their head above water. So I thought that that was interesting, that this book addresses social classes and the perceptions of social classes. The Schlegels are very much a middle-class family. They are pushing for the suffragettes and the vote. They're almost socialist. And what's interesting is this also deals with foreigners in England. This is set around London and the surrounding countryside, and the Schlegels are of German descent. And it's interesting because I think this was published in 1910. 1910. So that in and of itself is really interesting because it's right before the breakout of World War I. So it deals a little bit with some stereotypes, and some of the pushback against, you know, foreign citizens on British soil. The Schlegels, they don't do a lot of it, but it's just they're referred to as not entirely British a lot. And that I picked up on. This also deals, the main concept of this book, as it says on the back, is only connect. And basically it needing to connect with people and understanding those connections is what is part of the integral part of this book. And I think it's so important. I thought this was really relevant to today's society and things like that. Like some of the quotes that I stickied, and I'm going to read them out, is, "I believe we shall come to care about people less and less, Helen. The more people one knows, the easier it becomes to replace them. It is one of the curses of London. I quite expect to end my life caring most for a place." And I just thought that that was so relevant today with, you know, Facebook and Twitter, and, you know, I have something like 700 people following me on Tumblr, and I don't know pretty much any of them. I have a relationship with a couple that I consider friends, and it's really interesting. It's something that I experienced when I used to have Facebook. I don't currently have Facebook. I deleted it at the beginning of the year. That was one of my 2 resolutions, was to get rid of Facebook for the year. And I find it really interesting that I think there are studies shown that you can only remember 100 or 150 faces or something like that. And in the world of Facebook and social media, you have so much more bombarding you, and it's really hard to make those connections. And for a book that was written in 1910, that's absolutely amazing. Another of my favorite quotes is, "It was absurd, if you came to think of it. Helen and Tibby, it is Tibby, came to think of it. Margaret was too busy with the house agents. The feudal ownership of land did bring dignity, whereas the modern ownership of movables is reducing us again to a nomadic horde. We are reverting to a civilization of luggage, and historians of the future will note how the middle classes accepted possessions without taking root in the earth, and may find that this is the secret of their imaginative poverty." Like, wow. this book really resonated with me because that is something that I actually struggle with. I currently live at home because I'm going to school. This is the way that I choose to afford to go to school and reduce my student debts thankfully my mother has been most wonderful and lets me live at home rent-free, which I know is not an option for everyone, so I feel very grateful for that. But this constant pursuit of things that our culture has, this is something that I kind of struggle with on a daily basis. I really appreciate the concept of minimalism, and it is something I struggle to practice in my daily life because I've been raised to just want things. And if you're comfortable with that lifestyle, that's totally cool. This isn't a criticism of people who have a lot of things. It's just something that I've been thinking about a lot. And how, you know, especially in today's society, we live in so much debt and we are so consumer driven and so basically ruled by things like stores and advertising rule our society essentially, and I think that that's something that as a person I'd like to take a little bit of a step back from, and I struggle with that. I'm not always the best at not wanting to satisfy my shopping habit. I am the first to admit that. I talk about minimalism a lot, I read about minimalism a lot, but I'm not the best practitioner. One of my friends likes to laugh at me, and the fact that that's something that was happening and something that, you know, the fact that we are nomads with suitcases, that just, it really resonated with me. So while this book was pretty much perfect, there are a couple things that I would like to critique about it. Margaret is so strong in the beginning, and when she begins to enter a relationship with the patriarch of the Wilcox family, Henry, she begins to change how she deals with people, and she begins to change how she deals with him. There's one great point where it quotes one of the leading suffragettes, and they're like, you know, only weak women use their influence to get their husbands to vote, or something to that effect. And Margaret stops and she thinks, and she's like, this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm using my influence and I feel guilty about it, but this is how I have to live. And I thought, like, that's the fact that that was mentioned was just fantastic. Honestly, that was supposed to be a critical point, but it's totally not, because the book points it out so well. Yeah, there's not really much to critique about this book, because the Schlegels act as, you know, they're aware of their privilege, they're aware of their wealth, and they try to do better. They don't always succeed, but they also try and educate people who don't understand the difference. Like the Wilcox's view on the servants is really interesting, like horrible, but really interesting, and it's interesting how Margaret works to change perceptions of that, and it's just such a fantastic read, and I think you guys would really enjoy it. I'm really looking forward to now reading A Room with a View, so yeah, that is my review. It is a total rave. I tried to be critical, guys, and I ended up just thinking of it as a positive, so yeah, I will see you guys next week. Next week is actually the 1-year anniversary of this channel, so I might do something special for that. We will see. Have a great weekend, guys. Bye.